It was such a nice day today. Woke up and it poured rain yesterday. I got most of the videos done yesterday that I could do yesterday. The 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, racehorses. I didn't want to do the opening because I thought we had 5 horses to race yesterday. And although I don't like waiting on the horses, uh, I thought that although none of them were layovers, and we weren't supposed to have this fantastic night, I thought everybody had an outside shot. So um, I waited. And I woke up this morning. The sun was out. It was beautiful. Actually, everybody was up early. I've seen it all. There's snow on the ground, and Ollie just ran out to put the garbage out in his underwear. Okay. Anyway, it is a wonderful, wonderful day here in Ontario. Now, I'm doing my best to pitch James on coming to Northfield on Wednesday to train. I would say at this point, 55% yes, 45% no on James, even though at best he might tell you it's a coin flip. It's a lot to ask him, as I said yesterday, it's a lot to ask him to come to Northfield. One, he's my brother, which should make it a yes. But two, he's a leading driver in Canada, and coming to Northfield Park to train some babies, not on the top of his list of things to do on a Wednesday morning. So we'll see how that plays out. What is this boy doing? We'll see how that plays out. We'll see how that plays out throughout the week, but I really, really hope he comes over on Wednesday to train the horses. Now, in saying that, at that point, James will have a vague idea of everybody in the stable, and he'll have 4 hours. He won't be able to hide from me that long. We'll talk about the babies and what he saw. Now, he can't talk about much more than the ones he went with. But even so, it'll be a good conversation. Now, it's almost April. We're starting to see trends where horses are training much better. The horses that sporadically train good and then train bad, horse like Ready for Landing, very talented horse, but I'd like to see a little more consistency. I feel like he's trying to work his way through something. I don't think it's soreness. I think it's mechanical. He had a mark on the inside of his right ankle last week. Is he touching that going in and coming out of the turns? Is that why I have to steady him deep in the stretch when he switches gears? Does he touch up in there? Something bothers him from time to time, and it's hard. Even though I think there is an avenue for this horse to be an extremely productive horse for us, and you can go back and watch Una Madonna train last year. There was plenty of training trips where she looked very ordinary, and then some trips you're like, yeah, she looked good. And I'll tell you this, even after her win in 2-2, James thought she was an okay filly. In fact, he almost scolded me for winning in 55 with her first start, thinking that was too much for her, which I didn't think it was at all. I thought the filly looked fresh and looked sharp in her win, and ultimately it played to our side very, very well. So sometimes I do this, and I'm sure some of you do. What is with this boy? Is he taking each piece of garbage out one at a time? It's like 6 trips. I find it interesting sometimes just to go back and watch training sets from last year around this time and see who the standouts were, who was struggling, and you want to see that consistency. This is trip number at least 6. You want to see that consistency from the horses. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to extrapolate into, you can't take that information and then say, okay, well, put 3 more months out training this horse a monster. It didn't work for Austral Hanover, right? And I love the fact that he worked out so well because I can use his name so much. One, in saying to all of you that you never know, because you never know. 2, in saying that anything can happen because it did. And 3, again, that old adage, you don't know really until they go behind the starting gate, and all those 3 things are the same. But it plays to our strengths as a group. because don't get down on yourself or don't get down on your horse if your horse isn't training well. Now, I guess that ties into what I did today. I tried to make a top 10 list that I believe when all the dust settles, and you can go back and look at this because I'm probably going to be wrong on an awful lot of these horses, but so I wanted to make my top 10 predictions. Now, we generally do this after the Mother's Day open house when we got a real good idea of at least who has an abundance of speed or intelligence, and you might be able to say that should translate well into racing. I'm going to try and do it right now on March 26th and give you an idea of the trends that I see. Now, this was a tough list. I knew going in that this list was going to be horses that I think, as I said, when the dust settles, those are going to be some of our top horses. And I left off the list horses that ready for landing that hasn't been consistent. Although I think there is a path where he could be one of our best horses. I had to go with consistency, power, ability, talent, speed, obviously. And as I made my list, I got to 31. And I, again, Ready for Landing's not on this list of 31. There's a number of horses that we would all consider very, very talented horses. So here, I'll just give you a quick little update of who didn't make the top 30, like who didn't make those 31 names. Because there's a lot of horses that I think are very, very good horses that didn't. I'll go through them really quick. The Illinois fillies did not, right? Anti-Elise Hanover, who huge question mark. Oh, wow. I didn't put Arson on this list. I don't think I could have put him in the top 10 yet, but the fact that I missed him off the 31 is embarrassing, so he should have been on there. That's my bad. Blanton's Blue, another horse that's creeping forward, but still aggravating, but still there's tons of talent and lots of breeding there. No, he made it. Lover's Play, she should have been on that list. She should almost, I can't give her a top 10 billing, but she definitely should have been there here. Militant, another one, could easily find his way into being one of our best horses. I can see paths forward for these horses. I just didn't, if they didn't jump off the page at me, I didn't put them in the 31, and then I had to whittle it down, and what I did was I went round by round. So at 31, I made check marks. That gave me 18. I put 2 check marks beside the horses that got me to 14. 3 check marks got me to 11, and I had to settle on 11, and you're going to see why in a minute. The 11th horse, I'll start with the 11th horse. The 11th horse is Sunset Acres Girl, and although I wouldn't say she's up there with our best horses, where she has to go, I don't think you have to do a whole lot of hope and prayer to at least believe in your head at this point in March that there's going to be an abundance of Michigan-bred trotting fillies that can trot with this filly. This filly can trot with our best horses right now. All of our best horses. So unless something happens where she's not really built for anything to happen. She uses her body well. She hits the ground well. She doesn't interfere. She's doing her work really well. So it really is not hard for me to say, although I don't think she's going to be the best horse we have or one of the best horses we have overall on a horse-by-horse basis. When you look at where she has to race in Michigan, it would be really, really hard to think this filly would not be one of the better horses in that state. I don't see how that could happen. I don't see a bumper crop of Sunset Acres or Banker, whatever the hell she's by. I don't see a whole lot of those jumping up. And although there are some, I'm not making fun of the state of Michigan, as I've said before, they're in a rebuild. So we're in the middle of a rebuild with a filly that is a very, very good trotting filly. So it would be hard and unfair for me. Like, I could have knocked her off and said, okay, here's my 10, and not use her. But that was so unfair because I really believe she's going to be a top filly in that state. So I had to put her on, and I had to go to 11. I wasn't going to look at any one of these 11 names and take them off because really every one of them belongs on this list. So number 11, Sunset Acres Girl, because she belongs here, and it would be unfair to think otherwise. Number 10, you want to see how deep this list is for me, at least in my mind? A couple of them might surprise you, and I'm sure my number 1 pick will likely surprise you a little bit. But my number 10 is Time Is On My Side. I think this is a nice colt, but again, to have a colt that can go, that is this nice, this fast, and drop him at number 10, just goes to show you how deep this is. He's not the only pacer on the list. In fact, I have 3 pacers on this list, and he is in at number 10. I think he's got everything going on for him. A little, like to see a little more Eye of the Tiger from time to time, but again, he's got a ton to offer, and I didn't realize how much he was growing until the other day. He is going to be a giant of an animal. So time is on my side, a horse I like very much. First crop, Captain Crunch, a colt that we paid a lot of money for, and he has been training very, very good. So number 10, time is on my side. Number 9 is Drebin. Again, I think Drebin could be one of our best horses, easily. Very strong, very powerful, super competitive on the track. But when I looked at the horses at him, yeah, I could have put him maybe I could have put him in a little bit ahead, I suppose. Oh wait, no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yep. I could have put him in a little further up, but again, Drebin had a 2 or 3 week span to start March and end February where he really wasn't that good. He'd made some breaks and just didn't look great. So yes, the other day when I went with him, he was wrapped up solid, and Lonely Lakewood could not catch him. But again, that consistency, I'd have to put him in at number 9 just for the sake of consistency. Is from here on in, is he going to be very, very consistent? I don't know. Number 8, Cowboy by the Sea. I think this horse has been extremely consistent. I love what I see from Cowboy by the Sea. The horse does his work very, very well, week in and week out. Now, it's tough to put the pacers on there because they have to go so darn fast now. But Cowboy by the Sea has exhibited at least the ability to use tactical speed to get out of there good, or move him quick to put him in position, and then follow a helmet, and then as he it feels like he kind of catches his breath at the head of the lane, you move him over and he comes again, he sprints again. That's hard to teach a horse, right? And it makes him extremely effective. And you know, we've had horses in the past on both gates that weren't as good as some of the horses they ran with, but because they were tenacious, because they had that ability to be used in multiple ways. But at the end of the day, if you had them in a striking position, they would do what they could to strike. And I think that is how Cowboy by the Sea is training down. So I like what I've seen from him. Now, from here on in, that's 2 pacers, one at 10, one at 8. The other one's much further up. You may be able to figure out who it is. I already told you I didn't put Arson on the list, so you should be able to figure out who it is. Coming in at 10, 9, 8. Coming in at number 7, Lonely Lakewood. This guy could have been quite a bit higher. I just felt like, again, this is projections mostly from me. I just felt like the 6 above this guy had as much to offer, and I don't know. I guess he should have probably been ahead of the guy above him. Yeah, he should have. But you know what? At the end of the day, he's on the list. He's at number 7, Lonely Lakewood. I've had him at number 1 when we've done projection type lists, and he could easily make his way back up there again. You guys, you have no idea how hard it was to do this list. Most definitely the toughest year to pick out a small group of horses out of such a large group of talent. It's a very, very difficult thing to do for me, at least here March 26th. But, or is it 27th? I'm not sure. Oh, it's right there, March 26th. So as good. I'm just getting updates now about the horses that were bred and being bred from Jacob, which is pretty cool. 9:26 on a Sunday. Appreciate that. So Lonely Lakewood. I don't have to tell you guys much about this guy. Very well bred, very nice horse, does everything right, and I think he's going to grow into be a nice horse. The only way I see me being wrong from March 26th to August 26th of this year is if Lonely Lakewood ends up on number 1 or closer. I don't see him sliding at all. He's just an extremely talented horse, and I probably could have put him ahead of Memory Imagination, who comes in at number 6. This guy has come such a long way since castrating him, much like Lonely Lakewood, and has really put together a very, very strong looking workload. I've been very, very impressed with both of these. Both Father Patrick's. You could flip-flop either one of them. Memory and Imagination, I know Daryl's gone with them. He had his time in January, February. He was rude and ignorant, wasn't doing his work right, where Lonely Lakewood has done it right forever. So in fairness, maybe they should be flip-flop. Maybe he should be number 6. But Memory and Imagination, I like the family. This is Brace for Landing's family. Memory and Imagination was a pretty expensive colt that we bought out of a sister to Brace for Landing. So I use Brace for Landing. Obviously, Brace for Landing is far from the most impressive horse in that family. Maybe the least impressive horse in that family thus far. But Memory and Imagination just looked so good the other day, and Daryl, like Daryl goes to them every week because he gets along with them, and I like that every week he seems more impressed by this horse. I don't ask him to gush about him or talk endlessly about him. He just tells me every week how much he likes him. And the other day he he said, this is the Father Patrick in Pennsylvania. He said, geez, what a really nice horse this is. And I like to hear things like that, especially when they came from a place where they weren't that. If you go back in December and January, he was a mongrel of an animal, leaping and just being rude, and it just seemed like everything you didn't want him to do were the first things he wanted to do. And since castrating him, just a totally different horse. If he goes out, wins every stake race, and undefeated the rest of his life, and somebody says, oh my God, Anthony, don't you regret gelding him? No, not in the least, because I don't see how he could get from where he was to where he is now without being castrated. So number 6, Memory and Imagination, but truthfully, Lonely Lakewood should be ahead of him. So 7, Memory and Imagination, 6, Lonely Lakewood. Now, the rest of them, I think, may surprise you a bit. I know that Jason goes with Gypsy Hill all the time and loves him. I didn't put him on this top 11 list, but I did put an Ohio bred in there. Irresistible Sun, and I know there was some debate the other day. Now, I don't go with either of them, so I'm going with what Jason says about Gypsy Hill, who he thinks is one of our best horses in Ohio, and then I'm going with what Daryl says about Irresistible Sun, same type of thing. I think this colt, he just looks bigger and stronger and more durable, I guess, maybe than Gypsy. And Gypsy's going to be a big colt also. I think these are two very, very, very good trotting colts in Ohio. Not the only two also. We have Sweeney, who's a very, very nice colt, but I couldn't put him on this list just yet for sure. I opted for Irresistible Sun just when I see them on the track, and this is third person. Again, I don't sit behind either of them right now, but when I see them on the track, I just see how durable Irresistible Sun looks. And then when you put a big horse like him, there was one day, and I guess this is what sold me on it, there was one day where he actually got shuffled way back, and I was on the front with somebody. It might have even been Cowboy. And halfway down the lane, I saw this horse coming from the far outside, and we were smoking going under the wire for the babies at that speed. And I look over, and it's Irresistible Sun. So not only has he done well on the front, first over, covered up, but again, sprinting on the end from way back. He understands his work. He's competitive, clearly, and I just think he's going to be one of our very, very good horses this year. Now, from here on in, you got pure raw ability. Again, number 1 may have been a little bit of a sentimental pick, I suppose, but when we factor in everything I've seen about this horse, where this horse is, I'm not giving you the gender yet, where this horse is and where I think this horse could end up, you'll see what I'm talking about. Number 4, Affection. Affection could easily, any one of these top 11 for the most part, well, 10 could end up at number 1, I think, and quite frankly, anybody from the other 20 horses could do the same thing. Affection has just been so good for so long. Putting her at number 4 was unfair, and it only came down to who I believe, when push comes to shove and the real heavy lifting starts in the summer of 2023, who's going to show up. Who is our top horse? Who seems like they are going to get there? Some of them I have a lot of information to go on, like Affection, who's just been good forever, and well, let's say since Christmas. And then other horses, you're left trying to say, okay, if this horse continues on this trajectory, a horse like Affection, the only thing that will stop her from being a top filly is sheer ability. If at some point we hit a ceiling with her, and we've seen this before, we hit a ceiling with her, this is what she can do and what she can go. And I just don't see that being anytime soon. That's the only thing that'll hold her up, because she does everything right. You can do her, you can drive her however you want in the training sets. All she wears, no head check, a Murphy blind, and a set of bell boots and trotting boots. That's it. And has just been a really, really nice filly to train down. So number 4, and this is a tough one to put at 4 because she could easily be number 1. Affection at number 4. Number 3, Venice Blue Chip, our third pacer on the list. I just think if this filly holds up and stays together, big, tall, lanky filly, straight up and down up front, a little bit back in her knees, I could see her getting sore at some point. If she doesn't, if she stays together, if we can get her raced for the entire season of 2023, I think this is a very, very, very good horse. Eric went first over with her the other day in the training set, really just idled on the outside, and I let him. And I had Arson on the front. Arson can sprint a little bit. We come out of the turn, and I was in sprint mode from the head of the lane to the wire, which I really didn't think anybody could pace past me or try past me. We had 5 of them in there. We finished 5 across the track, and Eric was just sitting there with, literally just sitting there with Venice Blue Chip, and no one not only did she clear me immediately, but no one could even get to her saddle pad. And it was such an impressive feat for a young horse. I watched it and I said, man, that is such a nice filly. And of course, Tom, who I guess, good for Tom. I hope she wins everything. Blue Chip Farms retained 60-some% of this filly at the sale, which I think is good because he had put a ton of money into our other horse, 3 Point. It didn't work out, and that was devastating. So to see, I'm cheering for everybody, including Blue Chip Farms, who's been a great partner of the stable. But Venice Blue Chip, I just don't see. I do see the only way that this filly doesn't become one of our better horses, in my mind, is if she ends up having some soreness issues, which is possible with any one of these horses. They are all babies. We all know that. We all have to recognize that. But Venice Blue Chip just looks very, very impressive. And the more I talk about her, she probably should have been at number 2 and could have been at number 1. I think I can make an argument for number 1 for almost every horse on this list. Number 2, Pickpocket. I just see a very fluid, very well-bred, very strong colt. And the sky is literally the limit for this guy. Now, I'm so eager. I really hope James goes to Ohio, and I'm really eager to hear what he says about Pickpocket after he trains him. This horse has never really shown any lameness issues, has never shown anything. He made a couple of breaks on Joey, but I think that was just attention. And the one thing is that the groom, this is one horse that the caretakers have asked me, can we geld him? He's starting to bite and be a little boisterous in the barn, much like Carter Michael Dio was last year. And I told them, you're just going to have to give him a little tough love. You know, next time he bites at you, maybe hit him a smack. And just make sure that he understands that that's not tolerated in this barn. I do not want to castrate this horse. I will if I have to, but I do not want to castrate Pickpocket. I think the sky is the limit for him. I think he's got an extremely bright future, and I cannot wait to see what he is going to do. This is a horse where right now I'm having a debate. Do we bring him to Oak Grove before the New Jersey Sires? Is that too much racing on the end of his schedule? You know, and that's, if you go back a number of videos, you'll hear me talk about the same thing, saying they only have so many starts, but do we focus on getting the money we can get? Or do we focus on, I think this is a world champion. I think this is the best horse we have. Let's wait and race him further into the summer. And there's an argument to be made for both. I'm going to have a ton of emails from people saying, if you think he's that good, you have to wait. You're going to have people saying, get what you can get when you can get it. And there's an argument to be made for both sides, right? So I guess we'll let Pickpocket tell us how ready he is come June. And if he is very ready, maybe we do take a wander down to Oak Grove. And if we just don't think he's at where we need him to be right away in June, which is very possible, then we just take our time and say, no, we'll aim for New Jersey. But this guy, I think, has got a extremely bright future at the stable. Now, number 1 is going to surprise a lot of you when I talk about, the component of the now in being our best horse. So when I look at a horse, everybody, trainers, drivers, I certainly do, and you try to stay grounded, but you try to see what that horse could be. Does that horse have limitations? So you look for breeding, right? That's a good start, right? Gait, conformation, speed, ability, and an understanding and awareness of where they're at and what they're doing and what they're expected to do. All those things will make up who your best horse is. And every horse on both lists, on the 31 list, on the 11 list, all of the horses in here, and a number of them that never made either list, all those horses possess that. I can honestly say, and we talked about the one horse that I thought maybe was in a position where he just physically a little more immature than he should be, and we might stop with him. Of 61 babies, I can see a clear path for 60 of them to get to the races in 2023. Of those 60, I can't make an argument why any of them can't be useful horses in one capacity or another. So now we're dealing with a pool of 60, and you're trying to whittle that down to who's the best one. And extrapolating that data is extremely hard because the horses can get sick, they can get sore, they can reach a ceiling, right? The mental and physical strain on these horses getting to the races at 2 is immense. And if anything goes wrong along the way, it may jeopardize their whole 2023, their 2-year-old season. Right? Like I have a ton of respect for Brace for Landing. This horse made $17,000 or something last year. Took a mark of 56. Pretty nice trotter. Made very little money. Very little money. Didn't wow anybody other than the start of something, and then it just kind of fizzled out. So you never really know, right? I made my number one pick based on breeding, based on tenacity, based on how much this horse has improved just in 3-4 weeks, to the point where she's only been in 241. She's only been in 241. She won't be ready till August. I've talked about her over and over again. Now, it's hard not to respect this horse because she almost died. Literally, was hours from death. Fought her way back, literally fought her way back to living. And within weeks looked like one of the shiniest horses in the burn. You would think when a horse almost passes away, and you would know this. We've seen horses that have recovered from operations, right? Whether they were minor or not, they look a little flat, a little frail for a little while. This filly rips the wall down if you don't feed her first. Sharp, got her head over the gate, always looking for attention. And when she's on the track, she went from doing the baby stuff, from pulling up, to now just looking for a seam to attack. Yes, I am talking about Punch the Clock. I am talking about King of the North's sister. Her breeding did play a huge role in me making her number one, but make no mistake, I've left a lot of horses off the top 10 list, and I could have left this filly off and said it's really hard for me to put her on because she's done so very little so far. She's only been in 241. She's been 12 seconds, 13 seconds slower than our top group. But she doesn't have to go any faster because she's not going to be ready till a little bit later. What I saw the other day was a competitive, smart, sharp, sound filly with an exceptionally beautiful gait. I looked at all of our horses. Affection has done it great for so long. Venice Blue Chip, so powerful. Pickpocket is just an impressive looking animal. Irresistible Sun, tough as nails, and has been doing it great virtually since day one. Memory and Imagination coming forward. Lonely Lakewood's been so good. Cowboy by the Sea was an expensive colt also. Very well bred, by the way. Drebin, strong, powerful, time is on my side. And even Sunset Acres Girl, who's done everything great. I can make an argument for every one of these horses. Just look down the list of 31 that we didn't talk about. Don't talk about Bruno, has been great the last 3 weeks. Activation, something about that horse really caught my eye the last 2 weeks, and he's impressive. Flashfly, coming back strong now. Gypsy Hill has been great all along. Lover's Play, I think, could be one of our most powerful horses. These horses didn't make the list. Any list other than the 31. Mel Gibswan, we talked about how good we liked him. Militant, Oh Snap You, we rarely talk too much about her. Pull the Shoes, I think, is as impressive as any horse we have right now, but has just arrived and has a lot of work to do over the next couple of months. Ready for Landing, tons of ability. Is he going to keep it all together? Really Don't Care probably should have been on this list. She could end up our best horse. It wouldn't shock me if Really Don't Care becomes our best horse in 2023. It would not surprise me in the least. Didn't make the top 11. Royal Emeralds, been absolutely powerful and strong and tough for the last little while. Sedona Hill, been one of our best fillies from day one. Sweeney has looked exceptionally good. And probably one of the biggest travesties not making it on the list was Winter Bells, who's been awesome forever. So you look at all these horses, and I still come to Punch the Clock. And I'm not giving her a pass because she was our most expensive horse we ever bought. I'm not giving her a pass for anything. She earned everything she's got so far. None of these other horses almost died. I can tell you that. None of them. And then to fight back and not sulk, just look to compete. And went from pulling up and doing the green stuff. We talked about this 2-3 weeks ago. Doing that green stuff that the babies do, wander and make breaks and just be stupid. That was 3 weeks ago. That filly I trained the other day, the second a seam opened up in between those two horses late in the stretch, she accelerated to the point where I had to hold her together because I thought she would overtrot herself. I had to hold her together as she was trotting away from them going into the turn. I said, she's not going to make this turn. She just kind of squared it up. You could see her kind of square it up, drop her head, shoo, right through the turn. So yeah, when I look at what makes up our best horse, where they are right now on that list of things that make up the best horse is somewhere near the bottom. Speed, talent, tenacity, competitiveness, breeding plays a role. And all that allows me to at least make some sort of rough extrapolation of what I think. And when I see what Punch the Clock is doing right now, and I talk to James and he says the same things I do, this filly could be any kind of filly in 2023. Now, we already know she's worth a fortune as a broodmare. We know that right now for sure. So as much as we paid for it, really doesn't matter, because that always should be available. That filly in foal of the right sire in 3 years could bring God knows how much money. So when I look at Punch the Clock, I don't just see a horse worth a lot as a broodmare. I see a horse that wants to be a good horse. And this list has nothing to do with broodmares. It has everything to do with who I believe our best horses are. Right now, March 26th, it's very, very early. I could be wrong about every horse. But I put 11 on here because I thought 11 have shown me enough to at least put my stamp beside them and say these horses will be effective. Sunset Acres Girl, Time Is On My Side, Drebin, Cowboy by the Sea, Memory and Imagination, Lonely Lakewood, Irresistible Sun, Affection, Venice Blue Chip, Pickpocket, and our girl, Punch the Clock. And that is how I see it right now as we head into April 2023. So, I still have the stables. I stayed up all night and I cleaned up all the stables. I'll have them all ready for you in a few minutes. I want to do my opening now. Now I'm excited. Now I get the juices flowing. Going to do my opening right now in an optimistic way. So with that, I'm going to let you guys go. I hope you had a fantastic weekend. Remember, we have the drone on Tuesday in Ontario. We have videoing Wednesday in Ohio. And hopefully, James can make it out. So with that, I'm going to let you guys go. Have a great week. It is a beautiful day here in Ontario. Take care.